Welcome back, everyone, to Talent Skill Tree episode 7. And I'm super excited to have my next guest on the show, Sara McMunn, who happens to work at the same company I do, which is Blizzard. But I really like her background and how she, got into IT. And she's one of our senior IT specialists here. And I would love to talk more about that. Sara, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Nice to meet you and get to finally have this opportunity.
Yes. We talked before this. We kind of crossed paths and we, been around the same circles. And so this is our first opportunity to really engage and talk to each other. So I'm super excited to have this casual conversation here with you, Sara. But I think with a lot of my engagement in the community and the audience, they're really dying to know, especially in your field of work, and with the IT industry, really curious about your background. I want to know, walk us through this journey, and how did you, first start off from graduating, and how did you break into the world of video gaming?
Yeah, sure. So I'll start off with first of all, I know all of us have common roots with video games to some degrees. Everybody's got their individual stories. So for me, actually growing up, I was not really allowed to play video games with consoles, but I was always that rebel type that always found a way through PC gaming. So my parents let me use a PC back in the 90s because hey, use a PC for school too, why not? So I found ways to do it from there. So I started working with computers when I was about 3 because my dad would teach me how to run games from DOS. So if you guys have remembered shareware games, there are smaller companies that made. My favorite game growing up was called King's Quest. It was made by Sierra, and I think Vivendi had taken over, but that was one of my favorite games of all time. And of course, again, I wasn't allowed to play games or own a console growing up. So what I would do is I would go to parties with my family, and my cousins would have their play Super Mario and stuff growing up. It was just a lot of fun. So I found ways to do that. So let's fast forward a little bit to when I was in college. I actually came into so I went to UC Irvine. It's down the street from Blizzard. And I actually started with a major in film studies because I was really into the behind the scenes working with media, everything. But over time I found out that, hey, maybe this isn't for me. So a lot of my time spent in college is playing video games, and in my dorm room I played a lot of WoW. And I think the first time I got into WoW, I actually, for lack of better terms, I was one of those GFs who GF aggroed her boyfriend because I was like, you know what? You're spending so much time on WoW. I'm gonna swear and get better than you one day. So I really got into it. I mained a rogue back then, and it's just like Burning Crusade.
Oh, wow. Were you Horde or Alliance?
I was Alliance.
Okay.
I know, right?
Well, actually, my first tune was a Night Elf Rogue, so I'm there with you.
Same.
Yeah.
I played a combat rogue I was Alliance, and I raided Black Temple and all that stuff. Sunwell, that was the height of my raiding back then when I first started. So now the thing that got me specifically into Blizzard per se, there were recruiters that came to our campus career fairs, and I think the internship program was still fairly new at the time. So I got to really hear about what Blizzard had to offer, for example, and I was really excited, one day I'm gonna try and apply here. And to kind of say the least, I like to say this story because it's pretty funny. I know other people can relate to this, but over the last 10 years, I graduated in 2012, to give you an idea. I didn't start at Blizzard until 2021, so almost 10 years. I had such a love-hate relationship with applying to Blizzard one day. I really wanted to work there one day. And I'm like, you know what? I really love IT because I really like working with computers. And I did a lot of video editing. And people would say, when I didn't get into Blizzard the first time, but I've had over 60 applications over the last 10 years to try and get into Blizzard. I always had a lot of rejections. Working, trying to, every time a position opened up at Blizzard, I was like, I would always apply. So kind of expand upon that, I would always make sure my cover letters and resume was always tailored to make sure it was exactly what I had in my experience. as well as where can I apply my experience to what they're looking for. Like obviously I have to be able to back up everything that I'm saying and not just like fluff it up kind of thing. So yeah, as far as like my college degree, I actually graduated with degree in digital arts, and it's not exactly IT related, but I would always explain in my previous employers like, hey, I graduated in digital arts because I like to work with video editing, and to make sure I had the best equipment for video editing, I always built my own PCs.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's kind of like my long-winded journey as to how I got here. And yeah, so it's the thing is, if you don't get in the first time, like just keep trying and trying again, but always kind of build your own professional career in IT whenever you can, and always keep being open to learning something new. So that's kind of what I have been doing for like the last 10 years or so before I got here. So that's kind of like my long-winded story.
No, that's a great story too. And
Yeah.
I love hearing everyone's journeys. Everyone's journeys is so different. But your passion has always been in IT.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that, you took about 10 years to get into it, but always tailoring your resumes, which I tell people all the time, do tailor your resumes. And so you're living proof that it works here. What challenges would you say? Because 10 years is a long time, right? And your passion is, like you mentioned before, you want to break into the video gaming world, you want to break into the IT world. And so,
Hmm.
what would you say as advice out there, as far as the challenge? Because it can be a long time. Sometimes it can take 1 month, and sometimes it can take 10 years. What's been like your biggest challenge for you to keep being relentless, and what has worked for you and being where you're at now?
I want to say, as part of like not just like, it was personally a dream of mine to work at Blizzard, but as far as like growing yourself professionally, you have to definitely be passionate about the work that you do, and not because somebody else like it looks good, or in my culture, like a lot of us are expected to be in the medical field, but they're like, oh, because it brings money and stability. But me personally, I just couldn't get into it. So it's all about what makes you happy at the end of the day. Like, would you be troubleshooting like logs? Like, does that make you happy? Or are you cool with dabbling in network stuff, configurations, or just anything in that area? Like, me personally, it's kind of one of those like, am I happy doing this? And can I do this for a living? Like, for example, if you guys are probably previously aware, I did cosplay, but people would always say, hey, your cosplays are cool, but like, are you going to sell your costumes when you're done? And I'm like, no, 'cause, I do it out of the love and everything. And people will say, hey, can you make a business out of your costumes? And the answer for me is always no, because I just do it for fun. Like, I just want to do it for fun. And then for me professionally with IT, I still like enjoy that, but I know it's hey, it's like it helps me make my living, my bills and everything, but I'm never gonna um what do you call it? Like
Sell out.
yeah, so so yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at on that one. And as far as the challenges go, I always try to stick with what I want to do, and in how I can, help the company and like what they're looking for kind of thing. And then also we have to be mindful of like our own boundaries too, like make sure it's like, hey, is this what the company's looking for? Am I making sure I'm getting well compensated for, especially with like time and whatnot? Like just like in that regard. So that's kind of like where I'm at on that one.
Well, I want to talk about, so cosplay, you mentioned it before. And
Yeah.
for those who weren't aware, Sarah did get featured with her cosplay. And that kind of struck me in the chord too as well, because that was the first time that I saw you do cosplay. Let's talk more about that if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
What's can you share like a great an event or memory that, like the biggest cosplays things that you've done?
Yeah, so my favorite, of course, event, yeah, biased, right? BlizzCon. I've always enjoyed, my first BlizzCon was 2008, and me personally, I have been cosplaying since 2002, so I was 13 at the time. I actually started with like the anime cosplay and everything. And then when I went to BlizzCon, I was like, whoa, this is like a step beyond what I'm normally familiar with. And BlizzCon's always been my favorite to heart, like where the cosplay scene is. I particularly say, this is a personal, like kind of speaking. I feel like we have a community, like a tight knit community of cosplayers at BlizzCon that I feel like I don't really have elsewhere. Mainly because the kind of IPs, like we all play WoW or we all play like Overwatch or so. It's like we all have that thing in common. And because a lot of us play video games daily with our closest friends and everything, it's like it has a special meaning for us to there on that regard. Now the cosplay just adds another cool layer to it. I think another memory I've had was Gamescom. So the one in Germany. I went to Gamescom in 2019, and for me personally, it was a great experience because one, I got to connect with the European community that we normally don't get to connect with here in the US. And it was really cool because it's like you get to see how much you have in common with people on the other side of the world, but still get to relate to something like you all really enjoy together. So even the cosplay scene was really fun there. Um, yeah, and before I was working at Blizzard, I actually did compete in the costume contest, and my favorite part was just getting to see everybody backstage, and we're all super hyped. There's so much energy going on. Everyone's nervous. They're like, "Oh, are we going on stage?" It's always those little jitters that like it's really exciting. So that's like the stuff I really loved about like cosplaying at BlizzCon and just events like that.
Well, cosplay has done a lot of things for people, and curious, when you first started cosplaying, were you like an introvert, shy person, and then eventually, came out of your mold? Because I've heard many stories like that. Or, tell me, what was your experience like when your journey with cosplay?
I want to say I've already been like a loud person to begin with. I think it was really cool because through cosplay, I got to really dab into like the more creative. It was like a creative outlet for me to kind of like do things I normally don't do. Like, I think I remember when you're making a costume, you're just like rushing after work. It's like, okay, I gotta draft this pattern, and then literally like every almost waking hour of your day, you're just thinking like, how do I draft this? How do I do this or accomplish these sort of things? You get to really think outside of the box a lot. And I felt like that has kept my memory just kind of like my brain fresh, like for a very long time. So that's kind of like where I'm at on that one.
So that also can try to like goes hand in hand with IT then.
Yeah. No, in IT, you get all these like questions like, hey, my PC won't run, or like some just any random ticket we'll get. And you'll try like just like cosplay, you'll try all your normal tricks that you know in your own mental, like your book, like your own mental, like personal experience. And then sometimes you'll like come across very niche issues. There will be some select cases where it's like, oh, I haven't come across this before. That's a new one. You're like, how do we get past this one? So one thing I've learned with cosplay is you get to really think outside of the box for some things that you haven't seen before. And one thing that's cool is you get to go a little bit outside of your comfort zone and kind of challenge. You're always challenging yourself, trying something new. So you take that same philosophy, apply it to IT, and then sometimes I like to say, I'm just gonna YOLO this. You live only once. You only live once. And then just sometimes see kind of where it goes. Like, of course, you're gonna understand there may be some risks involved, but then at the end of the day, you're always learning something new. So that's one thing I like between both cosplay and IT is you're always keeping your mind fresh to learning something new.
I love that. I love that. And it's absolutely true because I'm in tech as well. So you do have to be adaptable. And a lot of times people are afraid and kind of scared to jump into the realm of IT or cosplaying or any type of new experience.
Yeah.
Well, that actually is a good segue into my next question here for you, Sarah.
Perfect.
So the question I get asked a lot is, how do I break into the video gaming industry? I like IT, I like technical work. I don't know where to begin. So just a
Mhm.
general overview, what would you recommend to people in how to get started?
I want to say, in breaking into this particular industry, first of all, I want to say just be passionate about what you do on a daily basis. And then also it's good to have like passion projects like that are not even probably work related, and then you can kind of see how you can relate the two together. So like for me, my passion project, or I have two passion, I want to say projects. I definitely like arranging music. And then I also love, of course, we've talked about cosplay. Just I'm the more creative type of person, but then there's always different disciplines as to how you can relate this to whatever career path trajectory that you'd like to take. I want to say as long as there's a lot of pretty cool, like not even skill-based lessons that you could learn, it's more like life lessons that you could apply for whatever job you're looking for. So for me, as long as you can kind of relate the two together, I would say that would be, at least in my experience, that has worked with breaking into this industry. Now for me specifically, talking about tech and IT, I've always been, I've worked various support desk roles, yeah, as I kept on applying in those 10-year span that we've talked about. So it's good to keep your horizons open as far as like to see where you'd like to go within the realm of IT, because IT is very broad, as we can say. You can get into like security, you can get into infrastructure, like you can get into just any of those sort of disciplines. Or and so at least for me, it's been an interesting ride, because because I've always been passionate about technology in general, and how it applies to like the things we do daily. I want to say, for example, I went from working in property management to like HR outsourcing. So kind of giving you guys the background as to the industries I've worked in. I worked from a law firm, like when I first started as a full-time position outside of college, because it was like an entry-level IT position. I want to say the next part too, my last place before Blizzard, I actually worked at Canon USA, which is the company that does like the cameras, the enterprise printers. You guys are familiar with the cameras and the printers. So for me, it was sort of like vendor support. So when I worked as a vendor, like in support, I we got to learn very different environments, like so as part of a vendor, you get to work with people of very different industries, like government sectors, education, entertainment sectors, law firms, just you name it, everything, because like they all use like the software that we had at the time. And from there, just putting all those together, I really got a very different, multiple different perspectives of how IT was managed in different environments, and it came like useful in like applying to where I am today. So you just get a well-rounded like background, and just always being open to that. So it was funny because like when I applied to Blizzard, I didn't think like I would get in. Like when I was just like, let's just give it a try and see what happens, and it kind of just worked out, I guess. I was
Yeah.
able to explain like my background, and I just every day I just love working with the things that I do daily at work. So that's kind of how I broke into Blizzard, and of course adding the little passionate part of it. So there you go.
No, and that's what most people don't realize too. And thank you for sharing that, is
Yeah.
not everyone is just going to wake up one day and work in the gaming industry. Not everyone's going to wake up one day and be like, oh, here I'm working at a AAA company. It's okay to have a diverse background. It's okay to try things out and to experiment on different things. And so I love that story about you, how you came in from different industries, and now where you're at now. But I do want to go back to love. So we talked about cosplay, we talked about your love
Yeah,
for IT.
for sure.
What about video games? So you mentioned 2007, World of Warcraft, Burning Crusade. I started off vanilla, and then I actually ended right after Burning Crusade. So I actually
Oh,
stopped.
okay. So
Did you get a chance to play like World of Classic by
I
chance, which
did.
was like
So
pre-COVID? Yeah, pre-COVID.
I want to say like the new 2019 release of
Okay.
Classic WoW, or are we talking about like recently, like the
Um,
last Wrath of the Lich King Classic?
yeah, I know there's been a couple releases, but um, yeah, do you like playing WoW still? Do you have any other games that you play now, or
I want to say most of my time is pretty much focused on WoW.
yeah? So you're a
I
huge WoW
Yeah,
player. Okay.
I'm still a big WoW person. So I actually currently play a lot of WoW retail, and to those who are watching this video, I do keys with everybody. They're probably laughing at me like, hey, they're like, because I love to I play WoW retail mostly, and I do Mythic Keys, and I run with like a set group of friends that we push keys with. For those of you who are not familiar with the whole WoW keys thing, it's kind of challenging PvE content. You run with a group of 5 people, and you push for score. You like the higher level the key that you work with. It's kind of like you have a timer, and then like if you meet the time, you get like specific ratings, and you just keep pushing and pushing. It's like unlimited. There's no like, oh, you there's no cap. You just keep pushing as hard as you can to meet those timers, and like of course you get gear and everything. That's for me, I used to raid back in the day, but because of my busy schedule and everything, I like the whole pushing keys thing. So that's kind of where I fit on that. And I like to log, I don't know, I just like to log on and just play. Like, Overwatch, you just log on and just play with your friends. That's kind of like my style. Me, like if like, when you were raiding, it's kind of like we have to schedule like twice a week, 3 times a week, and then wait for like, I don't know, 15 other people to show up. I'm like, I just want to go on and just get some bosses down.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was just going to say that too about Overwatch. That's the reason why I love Overwatch, is because I'm able to jump in and jump out, and I don't have time to raid too as well. So
Yeah, so I mean, it fits with our schedule, so why not? So
yeah,
I mean,
why
like
not?
even in IT, sometimes it's like, hey, we have a question. Can you answer this question real quick? It's like, all right, sure. Let me just pause my game real quick. I'll just say, hey, what's going on? Yeah.
um, well, as far as we talked about your loves and stuff like that. What about mentors? Do you have anyone that you actually look up to, that you read podcasts, or anyone in the video gaming industry? Because I know actually, I get that question asked a lot. Who are some of the mentors that people can look up to, or some resources? And so I'm very curious to see from an IT support side. Do you have anyone like that on your side?
I want to say, I don't have any particular ones I would say I would name. It's more like I look up to various different people who've like, have been in this road before me. I want to say I have some colleagues that I've worked with in the past that I do look up to, who've trained me specifically on like software specific things that I used to work on. It was nice because like they would fit in time outside of their day to just like say, hey, you know what, let's talk about like some training, or hey, how can you be more successful in like these areas of that you want to get into. It's like, hey, what do you want to get into? And it's like, how can we help you based on our experience? I know we actually have like our own mentorship program at within the realm of IT, and I actually am paired up with a mentor. And as a senior too, I did also hold one-on-one sessions with my team. So kind of like, hey, like let's see where you're at. What kind of career goals do you want to reach, and how can we help you provide the resources that we can to be able to see like get you towards your goals. So I'm kind of like, I'm being mentored directly by experts and engineers that I've worked with, as well as me providing the same kind of like mentorship to others as well. So I mean, I can't really like name names. It's more like I've worked with a few personal connections that have helped me expand upon my knowledge as to like where I want to go with my career.
Yeah, no, mentorships, and I talk about that all the time, is great. No
Yeah.
matter no matter where you have it, any organization, whether it's professional or personally in life, I think that's perfect. And so the one that goes hand in hand with mentorships is motivation and inspiration. And we kind of talked about this before our call here. As far as like with motivation, you mentioned that you have a passion that you deal with. Any other motivational and inspirational stuff that stands out to you, especially in this tough market and in the gaming industry, that you think people can resonate to?
I want to say something for me. I know it's been tough a lot for a lot of us in the industry, just not even this industry, but multiple industries. I want to say it goes back to I want to go back to my roots and say, for example, I love music. And for me, that means a lot of that keeps me motivated, to some degree. Like we, depending on our own emotions and how we're feeling at the moment, we're just like angry, we just want to, or we just want to be calm. For me, I find like just going back to listening to music helps me stay motivated, as well as just keep my head up, because I know like there are some times where it's just like tough and we just have to take a step back and, breathe and whatnot. So for me, I just want to say like it's just like going back to like roots of, going back to like what I love. So music. I've always loved, I was a big, huge band geek growing up. So
I
so
mean, music is vital. I had a voice actor here, and we were talking about music too, how it's so key to the video gaming industry, because it goes hand in hand a lot with it. So I love that you love music and cosplay, which goes hand in hand perfectly with the video gaming industry.
yeah, it's like the whole creative thing. So with the whole
Mhm.
video game industry, sometimes like I remember watching other videos where they feature like, oh, sometimes we might not even get like sometimes we get like creative inspirations from other teams that aren't even part of our department. Like I would watch like behind the scenes, like creating sounds for like just like a project they're working on. And they're like, yeah, someone from not even our team like just gave us this idea. It's like we'll just randomly get like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like that feeling when you're talking with your friends and you're like, hey, check out this thing I just bought. And like I wasn't even thinking about buying that, but man, that looks cool. I could try that out. Like we'll get those random like tidbits once in a while. Like we'll just motivate each other for like random reasons, like just depending on how we're feeling at the time.
Yeah, I have teammates as well, as well as personal friends who do that to me too as well. um, so before I get into just kind of just wrapping up the show here,
Yeah, for sure.
um, the other big question I get asked a lot is, in regards to the qualifications into breaking into, because when you're coming from commercial, like let's say you work for a bank
Hmm.
and you want to break into the video gaming industry, what have you seen out there that works for IT professionals? Is it certifications? Is it education? Or is it something else?
I want to say within the realm of IT, well, yes, like degrees look great, but I want to say that's not the top reason why that would be like the most selling point when you're like in an interview. I want to say the biggest thing is your your attitude towards the work that you do. So as far as like certifications go, all these things can always be learned over time, but I want to say like as long as you maintain a positive attitude as well as like showing like an interview processes in general, like how you would kind of approach a situation, like what kind of creative processes would you do and how would you take the resources available to you that are made available to you. I would say that's pretty vital. Now, as far as industry specific certifications, or actually, you know what? In IT, it's not really industry specific, but like you mentioned, going from a bank to a video game industry, it's like if you're trying to break into IT specifically, I would say the first certifications for any company would be like A plus, Network plus. Those will be the two vital ones that you would probably be best having under your belt. And then from there you can kind of, as you're doing your work, you can like see how you feel about like what you want to get into. So if you're working for a bank, you can imagine security is very tough. They're pretty tight. There's a lot of like personal data like that could be like sensitive data you're dealing with. So if you're going from like a bank to like the video game industry, for example, I want to say if you're really into handling that kind of data a lot, security plus would be another one to add to your skill set as a certification. And I know I am aware that the IT security is actually pretty in demand no matter where you go. Even not even in the US, but just any country you want to go to. Like I think those are the three I would say certifications that would help. So like just at least minimum just to have. But I personally feel like I feel like that in IT certifications actually speak louder words than a degree does per se.
Yeah,
Um
and that's in the IT field
Yeah, in
specifically.
IT specifically, yeah, because
Yeah,
I've seen and have worked with individuals who don't have degrees, but man, they are very intelligent when it comes to their aptitude with technical skills and troubleshooting. It's like that's like the more important part. Like we want to like if like when I'm working with individuals like that, it's like wow, I like that attitude towards like, knowledge sharing and everything. So I think that too is really important. Now to actually be successful in like making interview rounds, for example, I want to say personally what has helped me is not only are you looking at the requirements of like job posting, you want to step outside a little bit outside of the box. You want to show examples of work without giving out too much. Like, for example, what has helped me personally is I really love documentation. And I know and understand a lot of people in IT don't like doing this, but I think it's really beneficial to have this. So I love documenting. So what I would do in cosplay is like, hey, this is how I do. I would teach and write tutorials on how to do stuff in cosplay. But it's, hey, it's not really IT related, but it shows that I'm capable of, hey, like saying, hey, I can teach people of, trying out this task, or I can walk someone through who's not familiar with a process on how to do something that they want to do. So for me, I actually made like a supplemental like part of my application as part of like the job that I want to get into. That's kind of like an extra like advice kind of tidbit too. That would set you apart as like an applicant, in my opinion.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And one size does not fit all. And
Yeah.
so thank you for sharing that, at least from your perspective and from what you've seen and kind of from your thoughts. So, but I agree with you about the degree. I see it everywhere too, in commercial and government, and even the video game industry, since I've been in all three industries.
Yeah.
Um, Not to say that degrees don't matter, but it is a misnomer out there that people think they need to have a degree. They really don't. A degree is definitely helpful.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but just hopefully just words of encouragement out there for the ones who are listening. But so I just want to end up, it's been a blast here. So I just want to end on a note here. It's kind of a creative note. And if you were, because we're both in the video game industry, we love our community. You have your community of cosplayers and your own community there. If you were to explain to someone about the video game industry and why it's so good and why you love it, how would you tell that, explain it to that person?
So in my time working within the video game industry, I want to say one thing I really love about working in IT in the video game industry is that all the users that I've worked with are very passionate about the work that they do. So I love to resonate and bounce vibes with the people who are all passionate about what they do. So I want to say just keep that energy up and everything. It's been like definitely a lot of fun. Yeah, I definitely work with a lot of like as far as within IT, I get to work with people I want to know more about like the things that they do. And so far it's been very welcoming, at least with the colleagues that I've worked with. So when you see those credits rolling up in the screen in the games, I'm just like, hey, it's my team, it's my fam at work. So I'm really proud of the things that I do as far as working together with the teams, and I'm really proud of the works that they do as well. And it's just cool like seeing the things that our end users, like when I say end users, I mean like the other people like our employees in the company. It's really cool seeing the work that they do. Like we actually don't get to see all the time what they do. It's cool when we see the releases. So there's actually a lot of things we don't know about ourselves, but it's like, oh, that is so cool. And I feel proud because it's like, hey, I helped you guys with that. It's really cool. You get that sense of like pride, and like you feel like excited about like the work that you've done to help.
Oh, absolutely. The camaraderie, the pride,
Yeah.
the teamwork. You're in it to win it. It's absolutely love that too as well. For me personally, too. So, but it's been a blast here, Sarah. First time again meeting you, so it's been super cool to meet you here, and I want to be mindful of your time. Thank you. It's been so wonderful. Hope to see you around more. I can't thank you enough for sharing your time. Especially this is going to be helpful with a lot of people who are just curious about IT, cosplay, or even if they were to break into the video game industry world here. So as I like to always say on every note of the show here, we can always use more heroes, and let's love up together. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.